The air in 20 seconds, so I don't really care what you're doing. While I drink my Diet Coke, then I'll sit up like you guys talk about. Go for it. You're up.
Welcome to Hamilton County Newsmakers. I'm Perry Williams, and along with me today, my monthly visit with the Westfield Chamber President, Jack Russell. Welcome, Jack.
I'm excited to be here.
2017, new year.
Yeah, new year,
First
new
show.
logo.
That's right. First time this year. Well, let's talk a little bit about, let's get right to the point because we got a lot of things to cover. Last week you went to a conference at Ball State. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I went to the 2017 Indiana Economic Development course through Ball State and through the International Economic Development Council as well. And what I learned really was about how businesses think and how businesses get here and what are the important things that businesses look for when coming to a community. So really interesting stuff. Very interesting.
Jack, I thought you had posted a couple things on Facebook that were kind of interesting. Of course, you know I'm a stats guy, so
Yeah.
I like these statistics and like to, a lot of people get a lot of statistics and they don't pay attention to them. But let's talk about some of the stats that you heard about Westfield last week.
One of the things that we looked at through Stats Indiana was our population. We just did a special census in Westfield, and I wanted to look at what did our demographics look like, our age demographics, and what should we be doing from a chamber side to then kind of promote that. We found that between the age of 5 to 44, the population in Westfield is 55% of the population between the ages of 5 and 44. That is a huge number, and for us, even 30% of it was from 25 to 44 of the 55. So that means 25% from 4 to 24 and 30 from 25 to 44. So what does that mean for Westfield? What does that mean? And from a chamber side, what does that mean that we need to start investing in? And what I kind of took a look at those stats, and of course we've talked about this, is entrepreneurship. We need to be investing in entrepreneurship and investing in what they call BRE, business retention and expansion. Who is currently in Westfield, or let's say Hamilton County as a whole, what businesses are currently here that are experiencing mass growth with unemployment being so low in Hamilton County? So just all of these stats and information, but the biggest one that came out of it was that 55% of the population. That's a huge number for Westfield.
Now, Jack, did you happen to get to see the numbers of what your Fishers and your Carmels and your Noblesville?
Right. We did not look at that. I think Steve Cook probably could tell you because he was there with me. But from our side, I would imagine it's pretty consistent along that board. Mm-hmm. If the average age in Westfield is 34 years old, I would say that's probably, you may be high or low depending on the city, but I think you're seeing young families and young people wanting to, because of the trails, because of the parks, because of the quality of life, you're going to attract that younger generation that's moving in here. And didn't take a look at all of Hamilton County, but I can tell you that I would bet that it's pretty consistent along the boards of what Westfield's doing.
Well, Jack, obviously the chamber can make a huge difference in what's happening in your communities. Are there any changes that you see that's going to have to be made in Westfield, or maybe not changes? Because I think knowing your game plan that you put together in the last 6 months, it pretty well fits that age group.
Yeah.
But what about anything that may be raised up a little bit higher than what you like to work on?
I would say the number one thing we found was our communication. So understanding how to communicate what we're doing, whether that's social media, but even with social media, not putting a picture on Facebook or writing something. How do you get people to interact from a communication standpoint? So we just implemented, and we'll have a video out today, but tomorrow we're doing what's called Drive Your Business. So James Corbin does this carpool karaoke thing. We're going to be picking up local business owners and driving around and having them talk about their business for 5 or 10 minutes. So creating opportunities, not just our chamber, but I think chambers in general have to adapt to the business climate. And I think that's a big thing.
Now, so that's something, is that something that's going to be ongoing, that you're doing this karaoke? Because, in the past, chambers have a luncheon.
Yeah.
They send out information about some of the new businesses and ribbon cuttings and all that stuff. So that's going to change, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And we've seen not just doing a ribbon cutting, but then adding Facebook Live or adding some social media component that gets people interacting and know when those things are going on. So you're right. Keeping those old school things, keeping the luncheons, keeping business after hours. You have these old school type chamber things, but how do you add modern technology to interact with people? And I think that's the big thing with chambers, is adding technology to the things that you already do well.
Well, Jack, going to another subject, and you kind of touched on a little bit in the age group things, and one of the positive things that Mayor Cook came up with was Graham Park, okay? Yeah. And a big feather in the Graham Park group at the end of last year was getting William Knox from Hamilton County Sports Authority to come on board as their director of the event center in Graham Park. I know that you have coming up a luncheon, which is this week, Thursday?
This Thursday, yeah.
And that's at
the Bridgewater. And we'll have that from 11 to 1 p.m.
So, and your guest is going to be William Knox. Let's talk a little bit about that and some of the things that you think that he'll probably talk about.
Well, I can tell you that William is a huge asset to us in Westfield because of who he is and his connections and his education and passion, really, more than anything, for Graham Park and for sports in general. And I would be interested to hear how his time has been so far, but really it's understanding his vision and his goals going into 2017 and beyond. I think you'll see with that communication, with that talk about his past and how he's gotten to this point. And I'm just excited to hear about what his vision and goals are for 2017. I know right now we have 140 people registered for that. We had 120 people at our December one, and the one before that was State of the City, which we had over 200. So we are getting, on average, right about now, about 130 people per luncheon. So it's great to get that information out to everybody.
Now, Jack, let's talk a little bit about this next luncheon here is William Knox, but the event after that happens to be at Graham Park. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have a couple different things going on with Graham Park. So our young professionals, we're going to be out there, and then we're also going to be, I believe, for our February luncheon, we'll be at the Emmy Center. But really trying to figure out how we can become more involved in Graham Park from a chamber perspective as businesses are coming in and working with them through that. So we have a couple big things coming up here over the next couple weeks.
Now, you kind of threw me a little bit. What is the Emmy Center?
The Emmy Center. So IMMI, I said Emmy. IMMI has a conference center.
Okay.
And that is where our February luncheon is going to be held at. It's going to be called Share the Love. We're going to bring in non-for-profits and let them do 2 to 3 minute presentations of who they are and how to get involved. Our hope is, from the business community, is that businesses or individuals can take maybe an hour a month or an hour every quarter, or take time, know the non-for-profits that are in the area, and take time to give back. And we're working with the Legacy Fund to be a part of that as well.
Now, I think you have a bean signing.
Yes, we do. On Wednesday. for the new Riverview building. So Riverview, with their giant building on 31 and 32, they'll be doing the beam signing on that, and we'll have all the Riverview folks there. It's exciting. You only see the beams right now, and I still can't believe it's that tall. So I can't imagine when you actually have a whole building in place what that's going to look like.
You know, the funny thing, when they first brought the crane in there, it seemed like when we went to chamber meetings and even the chamber coffee, they were talking, can you believe how far I can see that crane from such and such? So it's a huge crane.
Yeah, you can, I have a lot of meetings downtown, especially at the State House right now, and on my way home, I can see that maybe where Carmel hits. I mean, you can see this giant crane, and for us, of course, we want to see a building there, but it is kind of neat to be able to see a crane and on your way home, so it's always great.
And Riverview's been a very good partner for you at Westfield.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
I know they're a county hospital, but they have really stepped up and been very, very aggressive in the
and then they have some
Westfield
leadership roles in our chamber as well. Tom Dooley, who's with Riverview, he was our past chairman, and we have, of course, Seth Warren on our board as well. So it's nice to have some Riverview folks so involved.
Absolutely, and of course you mentioned IMI. They're a great supporter of you in that community of Westfield, and a lot of people don't know a whole lot about IMI, and as far as
they're a diamond for Westfield for sure.
Yeah, huge, and
big part of who we
they're
are.
a big national organization, so they're known worldwide. So it's always kind of great to know those. Jack, you mentioned talking about the State House, and you and I had a conversation because we had lunch today, and one of the goals I wanted to do, and hopefully that since this is the legislators will be meeting until late April, that each month we talk about a few things that are going through the House and the Senate as far as bills that directly relate to Westfield as a city and Hamilton County. And so let's talk a little bit about that and some of the things that because if people don't realize, the governor has an agenda, the House has the agenda, the Senate has the agenda, the Chamber has the agenda, education has the agenda. There's many platforms out there that are trying to get bills through the State House.
Right, and right now from our side, we're taking a look at both the House and the Senate and kind of taking a look at their, I can tell you probably the number one thing for us is the roads bill. How does that directly affect our citizens and our businesses? The other one that surprisingly, when I listen to our chamber members, is which will be probably next week, is the pre-K programming. Those are some big things with the chamber. Again, when you talk about a population of 5 to 24, 5 to 25, 25% of them, pre-K becomes an issue. And then of course on the other side, young, very, very young people, and then from 26 to 44, 30%, those are people with kids, and those are important issues. The average age in Westfield being 34, probably having their kids, and pre-K programs are something that we're going to start focusing on next week. But when it comes to the road bill, I know that is something that I've been talking with Kathy and Tony and Donna, keeping up to date pretty much almost every other day or every 3 days, 4 days, to make sure that we're, not just Westfield. I mean, like you said, making sure that we're taking care of Hamilton County and the region that we support. So. Yeah,
because the one thing about it, we have a lot at stake here. Number one is 31 is a big corridor through our state and goes right through Westfield. And then on the other side here in Noblesville with 37, the plans that they have there, and 69. I know it was a very painful situation for 31, especially through Carmel. But as a whole right now, that's a pretty good thoroughfare.
Yeah, I think when it was being built, people were unsure But I can tell you, if I leave and I go downtown, it takes me about 25, 30 minutes with barely any traffic. So I think you have that waiting game in between as it's being built versus, and that's always tough. But I think it's communicating from a regional standpoint. I always try to keep in touch with Tipton County and hear about the issues that they're having, because if Tipton County can succeed and let's say Boone County, if they're doing things at the State House, it only affects us as a whole. And I think just like you think regionally, as in Westfield, Carmel, Fishers, Cicero, Sheridan, we also have to start thinking outside of those boundaries as well. And okay, great. If Tipton County can succeed, what does that do to us as in Hamilton County? Or Boone County succeeds, how does that affect Hamilton County? So I always like to hear from other legislators about what's going on, just because we need to see what the effects are of different things in different counties.
Because one of the things, as far as for our whole state and affects us here, is the conversation going on about 65 going north and south and 70 going east and west, about adding another lane going both ways, which would make them all 3 lanes from state to state. I mean,
Right.
So that's going to be a huge, and that will affect a lot of people. And how do they fund that? Because I'm sure you talked about it in the economic meeting, was the effect of being in transportation through your state.
Yeah, transportation was a big factor. We talked a lot about real estate development, how small towns. Surprisingly, some of the statistics were that a lot of people want to live in rural areas. And I think that's something where now you look at someone like Sheridan, Cicero, how can they take advantage of, because they don't know, maybe they know who they are, but as we develop into a younger generation coming into the state of Indiana, and people want to move in a rural area, what are the things that they're looking for? Well, quality of life remains the same. Trails, a good school system. I know that you've got Dr. Arrowood and Dr. Mundy up there doing great things. So from that standpoint, from those two, and obviously we like what's going on in Westfield, of course, but how does this new population that's coming in, these younger families coming in, wanting to live in actually surprisingly rural areas, how does that affect those schools? And I think that's something we got to take a look at as well. So.
And mentioning that, one of the things that I know that you're doing as a Hamilton County Chamber, are the meetings monthly when you meet with all the chambers?
We try to
directors,
do monthly.
yeah, chamber presidents monthly to discuss, because you and I talked at lunch. Northern Hamilton County sometimes has much different needs than Southern Hamilton County.
Absolutely.
Or even the Central Hamilton County. So they all have their different needs. So it's important that everyone understands the problems that each other has.
Right, and I think we can all come together and say, we want to fight for these things, because there's a power in numbers. And so we get together. We're actually having Eric Holcomb, Governor Holcomb. He's coming to speak in February at our legislative breakfast. So, I encourage businesses in Northern Hamilton County and Westfield and Noblesville, come to that meeting and listen to the leader of the state of Indiana, listen to what his vision is and how you can best be a part of it.
Absolutely.
I think that it's so important. 90% of anything is just showing up, right? So if you can show up, listen to how I can benefit, and then come back to your chamber and say, hey, these are the things that I took away from it. What can we do to make an effect on business wherever you live?
Well, one of the comments that Governor-elect Holcomb made in his speech here last week when he became the new governor of the state of Indiana, he said he was going to put the hammer down, and most definitely he's walking that walk, because he'll be at the Hamilton County Chamber's legislative breakfast. And I haven't always been here, but I think that's probably the first time you've had the governor at that type. And so I think he's letting everyone know that he's serious about education and about infrastructure and all those 5 pillars that he has.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, and Holcomb has always done, you saw when he ran his campaign, he's been to all 92 counties. He knows all the great places to eat, and he knows all the people that he's met there.
And he shot baskets in every
And he
county.
did shoot a basket in every county. But I think more than anything for Holcomb is he did something different than a lot of people running for office, which is he walked the walk and he talked the talk. I'm going to go visit 92 counties. I'm going to eat at some good places. I'm going to shoot baskets, but I'm going to listen. And I think that that's the biggest thing that I've taken from him is I'm going to go listen to what your needs are, and I'm going to show up. And I wouldn't be surprised by the time his 4 years are up, I bet he's visited all 92 counties to make sure that their voice is being heard. So I'm very excited for what lies ahead with Governor Holcomb, and hoping to create a relationship, especially with our group in Hamilton County, to be a voice for everybody.
Well, Jack, thanks a lot. We've kind of run out of time here already, but
Yeah.
let's keep in mind next month we'll talk a little bit about how some of the chamber initiatives are passing through the legislation.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit about some of the funding that's going on for Hamilton County. But you and I both know that we're not going to know a whole lot of detail until the end of April, right?
Exactly.
When this all shakes out,
Right.
all those agendas that everyone has right now
Yeah.
may take a totally different look.
And that's why I always want to have your finger on the pulse to listen and see what changes are happening on. But we're excited. It should be great.
All right. Thanks, Jack.
Hey.
I'm Perry Williams along with Jack Russell, and we'll see you next month, and I'll see you next week on Hamilton County Newsmakers.